Oh, geez, that wasn't very nice of us. Sorry. Hey, it's Walter's fault.
Running for select.
All right. Okay, so welcome to Hadley Mothers Club Candidates Night. Hadley's Mothers Club's mission is to serve Hadley by providing opportunities and support for our youth and members of our community. We're a not-for-profit organization started in 1944 for young mothers to gather socially, discuss subjects of common interest, and render public service. The group's first project was to establish a kindergarten class in 1945, which continued support by donating materials for the classroom the next year. And we just had our 80th celebration with a lot of our past members and the current members, and it was great. We had over 50 folks that gathered, and we had a lot of discussion about different activities we did, and it was just great to reminisce with everyone, especially the older, seasoned members. I want to be kind. This year, so for it's got to be over 40 years now, just before Hadley town election, Hadley Mothers Club supports Candidates Night. So this provides the candidates for town office an opportunity to introduce themselves, present their platform, and answer questions by the citizens that are here in attendance, and some that actually emailed questions for the candidates. So we expect this event to operate with decorum and respect. Rules of this event were sent to all the candidates previously. The rules would be enforced by our moderator, and the decision of the moderator is final. At this time, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Scott Chano. He is a 35-year veteran of the window and door industry. He is currently the GM and managing partner of National Vinyl LLC. National is a vinyl window and door manufacturer serving the dealer and lumberyard market throughout New England and Eastern New York. With a BS in Business Management from Western New England University, Scott is still active, mentoring a graduating senior through the Real Test program, whereby the future graduate goes through a real interview process and with personal interactions, providing them with real-world experience in advance of graduating. Scott is a resident of Hatfield, and he's married to his wonderful wife, Tracy, and together they have 3 grown children. So I'd like to introduce Scott to take over moderating for the evening. Scott?
Well, thank you, Denise. Very much appreciate it, and thank you to the Mothers Club. And of course, I wouldn't be remiss. I mean, we're only the day after Mother's Day, so I want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers that are here and listening tonight. Thank you to the candidates and, of course, the people of Hadley. To start, what I'd like to do is have us all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So what I'll do now is I'm going to introduce all the candidates, and from there we will allow each one in the order that I introduce them to come up and speak for 5 minutes about their position. So to my right I have Randall E. Iser. This is actually for the Select Board. This is a 3-year term, and you need to vote for 2. I also have Molly A. Keegan and Philip W. Shumway. For the Assessor, we have a 3-year term, and you're only voting for 1, and that is Walter R. Jennings. For the Board of Health, we have Emma M. Dragon, and that is for a 3-year term. And for the Planning Board, this is a 1-year term, and we have Anthony S. Fiden and Kishore Parmar. For the Park Commit, oh, I'm sorry, not here. For the Housing Authority, this is a 5-year term. We have Crystal Jackson. And last but not least, for the Chair of Bylaw Committee, we have Jim Maximowski. To talk. All right, so to start, we'll start with Randall.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Randy Iser, and I'm running for re-election on the Select Board. I'd like to thank the Mothers Club for putting this event together, as they always do, and thank all of you for coming, and as well as the people that are in the audience. The interweb audience. I've been on the Select Board for 3 years and would like to continue the work that we have started, as well as whatever will come along in the next 3 years. As a member of the board, I serve on the DPW Building Committee, the Bylaw Committee, and the Smart Growth Committee. I am passionate about all 3 of these committees, as they could have a major impact on the future of the town. When I first ran for this position 3 years ago, I pointed out that the Select Board is a 5-member team. I think the current board is an excellent team. We work well together, but are not afraid to offer a differing opinion on any subject. I would like to continue to be part of that team. Other than this evening, feel free to contact me if you have any questions or concerns that you'd like to discuss. And I say other than this evening because there's going to be pre-selected questions for us, but afterward I'd be happy to talk with you. And I hope you feel that my record so far is worthy of another term on the board. Thank you for your time, and I would appreciate your vote on May 20th.
Okay, Molly?
Thank you, Scott. So first of all, of course, I want to thank the Hadley Mothers Club for keeping this tradition going. I'm Molly Keegan, and I'm seeking another term on the Select Board. For those of you who don't know me, I've lived in Hadley over 25 years. Back in 2005, presumably because of my strong financial background as well as business experience, I was asked to join the Finance Committee. I quickly realized how little I knew about the day-to-day workings of the town and how complicated municipal governance and its finances actually are. After 6 years on finance, I served another 3 years on the school committee and now have served 9 on Select Board. And I still enjoy learning something new every day. I'm extremely proud of so many aspects of our town, including our protection of agricultural land, close to 30% of the town at this point, record generation of solar power, our new library and senior centers, and the quality of our roads, which is the envy of anyone who lives elsewhere and passes on through. An open town meeting is absolutely the best. Financially, we are in better shape than most of our neighboring communities. Not only have we achieved the objective measure of a AAA bond rating, which, if you're not sure what that is, it provides us with the best available borrowing rate. And we have managed to avoid layoffs and union walkouts that seem to be a daily headline from other area towns. Hadley continues to enjoy one of the lowest property tax rates in the Commonwealth. This is the definition of fiscal responsibility. None of this has happened by accident. It's due to sound leadership from elected boards, supported with countless volunteer hours from residents sitting on appointed committees. And of course, we're fortunate to have incredibly dedicated and competent staff who get the job done. I'm seeking another term on Select Board for many reasons. Hadley has several challenges at hand. Our expenses are outpacing our revenues. Our infrastructure, think pipes, culverts, the levee system, is in dire need of repair, replacement, or upgrade. Finding qualified personnel is increasingly difficult. And all of this in the context of rising costs, not only for the town, but the residents and business owners as well. Simply put, we need to grow our revenue base or reduce costs by working more efficiently and/or reducing services. Governing the town is not easy. It's hard work. Thinking we can solve long-term financial issues through hiring freezes or level funding is a simple approach that may work for a large Fortune 500 company, but not for a small town that runs with entire departments that consist of only 2 or 3 employees, if that. It's essential that the people we serve believe that our elected officials are fair but also reasonable. My priorities for another term include working with a soon-to-be-hired town administrator on a multi-year strategic plan, continued focus on economic development initiatives that increase the tax base, working with our legislative delegation to find funding opportunities for infrastructure and other needs, and continued work to determine if Hadley's current organizational structure is efficient and effective for today's needs. I believe I bring experience, expertise, and common sense to meet these challenges. Over the years, I've developed a good working relationship with our department heads and other elected and appointed officials. I'm also engaged outside of Hadley's borders, maintaining relationships with neighboring community leaders and keeping ongoing dialogue with our legislative delegation. And I will continue to make myself available to residents and business owners with questions, concerns, or even praise for our employees, which we do get. So Election Day is May 20th, and I would very much appreciate your vote.
Philip?
Good evening. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody that has put time, energy, and attention into these matters. It's the same reason that I'm here. I felt compelled to start trying to do something. I actually did not even prepare a speech because I just wanted to come up and speak from the heart, let people know why I'm here, what I'm doing, and what I think I can bring to the table. I literally prepared nothing. I'm prepared to take questions because I think every single decision is going to be something that is going to have to be made on a case-by-case basis, and we need to make sure that we're doing the best job to be the most efficient and get the best value for our dollar. Some of the things that have driven me here, it's very complicated, as we all know. There's a catch-22 to every single decision, but me as a contractor, I'm out meeting with tons of people every single week. One of the biggest concerns that I have, that I've seen in neighboring towns, was we have elderly population where they're on a single fixed income and they're talking about getting their house ready to sell it because they can no longer afford to live in the town. I'm starting to see that more and more in the town of Hadley. I feel that that's not right. I feel we need to do more to defend and protect our seniors. There's plenty of things that we can do to support our infrastructure, which absolutely needs to be supported, as well as our first responders, et cetera. But there's certain things that we can do that I feel that we can put a little more energy and attention into being efficient and make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. I've been a business owner for over 20 years. I've had to become an expert in efficiencies. I have had to be someone that can adjust on the fly and do what we need to do in the given moment to make sure that something comes out appropriate. I am an Eagle Scout. I'm a father. I'm raising a family in this town. I love this town and I want to live here the rest of my life. I would appreciate your vote.
Okay, Walter.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank Hadley Mothers Club, first of all, and my name is Walter Jennings from East Street. I'm running for Board of Assessors. I have a lot of experience with GIS mapping, etc. I'm a former highway superintendent, emergency manager, and a fireman. And I'm a resident for over 15 years now and don't ever plan on leaving. So that's all I got, short and sweet for you guys, and thank you, and I'll see you on the 20th.
Emma? Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong direction.
He's saying Emma, and many people who have known me in the last couple of years know that I just go by E or Dragon, like if you know me in the community. So sometimes I still get that like, oh, who are you talking to? So thank you to the Mothers Club for having this, and thank you everyone for being here tonight and those virtually as well. I'm E Dragon. I've been on the Board of Health since 2018. I as well am had the highest award in Scouting, in Girl Scouting, the Gold Award. So congrats to you, Phil, because it's a really amazing thing to get. I continue to be involved in Girl Scouting in Hadley. As of this year, I'm still a leader for my 3rd grade troop for my daughter, and this year I'll be in Girl Scouts for 35 years. I don't know how that happened, but here we are. So I guess what I want to say is I just really appreciate the opportunity to get to work for everybody in town, move forward the initiatives that we need, and just expand the great services that we've done from the Board of Health. Since I was initially elected in 2018, we've gone from a completely volunteer board with no staff at all, doing all of the work that needed to be done, thinking about all of those health inspections, permitting, all of those things that we think about every day, that we kind of just is the invisible work. We are now part of a regional coalition to help support those needs, and just are really continuing to expand on the professional basis to improve our town services in terms of health services, with our town nurse now being engaged at the senior center, doing great educational programs, and I just continue to look forward to the future and are really thankful for being here and having all of you here as well. Thank you so much.
Next, I'd like to have Anthony.
Thank you. I'm Tony Fiden. I'm running for the Planning Board for the one-year term. And first, I'd like to thank the Mothers Club for putting this on. This is one of the few opportunities that candidates have in a small town like this to engage with voters, and I think it's very important, and I'm glad to see people participating here. If elected to Planning Board, my priorities would focus on protecting neighborhoods, preserving farmland, and defending local decision-making, and supporting business development on Route 9. So those are pretty straightforward priorities that I'm sure most of you can get behind or agree with. But I think there's more to it at this point in time. I think that right now, more so than at any point in my lifetime, we're being pressured by kind of outside forces from the state, from even national political organizations or politics that are kind of impacting what we're doing, kind of trying to push us in directions that we may not be ready to go in. And I think that we can be a little bit more assertive on pushing back on some of these things. And I'll give you an example is last summer, the state and the governor passed a law that would seek to streamline permitting for energy projects, large-scale energy projects. That was passed, and what that means is that we don't have as much say locally in large-scale energy, battery storage, solar projects that could come in and that could take our forests, could take our farmland. And when that came out, I went to several boards and spoke. I went to the Select Board, I went to the Climate Change Committee, I believe I even mentioned it to the Planning Board. I was very disappointed that no one, it was kind of crickets. No one saw that as a threat, and I really think that it is a threat to what we do here, because I think we should drive our decision making. We should be able to decide what our town looks like now and into the future. So that's a point that made me decide I wanted to run for office. I've consistently spoke out. I think that's part of our obligation as a private citizen to participate, to go to, I think we have our volunteer board members and committee members, but I think it's up to us to go and speak out. And that's not always easy to do that, but I've tried to do that on many issues. I spoke out, for example, against the battery storage proposal that was before the Planning Board. I was disappointed that that was passed without, there was a compromise that was passed, and I thought we should have pushed back a little harder on that. So I do think we need to be a little more assertive in our approach, and I think that I can bring that. My background is as a journalist, as a copywriter, as a marketer, as a reporter. For years, I covered hundreds of meetings and learned a lot about the public process, a lot about development, and a lot about how things work from all sides. And I think that was a very valuable experience that I got from that. And that's what I bring to the Planning Board is that same approach, that I'll take issues like that, always look at it from Hadley's perspective. How can we make our own decisions? And finally, I'd say that I will not only welcome feedback from citizens, but I'll actively seek it out, because I know it's not, I think that's an important part. We need to get more viewpoints and hear what people have to say. And I'd appreciate a vote on May 20th. Thank you.
Kishore?
Hi, my name is Kishore Parmar. I'm running for the one-year planning board seat. I've been a Hadley resident since 1988, and I'm privileged to be able to run for this position. As a Hopkins Academy graduate and a lifelong community member, my connection to the town of Hadley runs deep. I started off working in Hadley since I was little at my family's motel, which was the Spruce Hill Motel down on Russell Street, which has now been redeveloped. Over the years, through our development, I've worked with numerous different departments within Hadley. Fire, police, DPW, conservation, and building. So I'm familiar with all those departments, and we have a very good working relationship with them. Regarding small town planning, it's my belief that it requires flexibility and a broad perspective. In these challenging times economically, with the turmoil and uncertainty, a planning board member needs understanding of a few important points. And one of them would be protecting our agricultural heritage and scenery. Another one is increasing our tax base along Route 9 that helps maintain our low tax rate for our residents. And also being creative in recognizing new development opportunities that have positive impact on our community while maintaining our culture. And finally, the fiscal responsibility in terms of development decisions. I believe with my experience, both as a resident and a business owner who has developed in Hadley, makes me uniquely qualified to serve. I respectfully ask for your support to bring practical, community-focused leadership to the Hadley's Planning Board. Thank you.
Crystal?
Hello, everyone. My name is Crystal Jackson, and I want to say Happy Mother's Day to mothers and grandmothers. I've been on the Hadley Housing Authority almost a year now. I've served as a commissioner. I'm going for the position as co-chair. I am also on several other committees and boards in Hadley, such as the Housing, Economic and Development, the Digital Steering. I am on the Friends of the Library. I am also, as you know, the commissioner on the Hadley Housing Authority. And there is another one that I'm part of, but my mind, it's escaping me now. It's in front of it. Oh, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. I'm the chair for that, and I'm also on the Cultural Council. Thank you. I appreciate that. But to be a part of Hadley is definitely a privilege and a blessing, as Kishore said, because Hadley is a wonderful town. My son graduated Hopkins, and my grandson is going to Hadley Elementary. I serve on the boards, I've worked in Hadley, I shop in Hadley. I believe as being a part of this community, giving back is something that we should all do so we can keep Hadley as a community-based town and make sure that we all have a source and a sense of being a family. I would love for your vote as the Hadley Commissioner Authority. Again, I'm going as co-chair, and I don't have too much else to say, but you guys have a great day.
All right, last but not least, Jim Maximowski is not running for an office, but he's here to talk about a ballot question.
Thank you. Good evening. I was informed, I'm not here to talk, I am not running for a position. I'm here to explain a question that will be on the ballot next week. And that is to change constables from elected to appointed. More on that in a second. First of all, I want to explain, it's a general bylaw. I would like to briefly explain the difference between a zone bylaw, which everybody associates with me being on a planning board, and a general bylaw. And a zoning bylaw typically deals with property in town, what you can do with it, how it can be used, size of the property, building use, residential, business, etc. A general bylaw typically deals, and this is a very broad explanation, it would take me 20 minutes to truly explain the differences. A general bylaw deals more with town government. It explains the different offices that need to be elected, appointed, their duties, general laws in general that are still a little bit separate from the state. Anyways, have been appointed, the select board appointed a bylaw committee a few years ago to go over the general bylaws, amend, add, delete as appropriate to bring them up to date and make them appropriate for today, because the bylaws have been in effect for probably almost since the inception of town, 300 and something years ago. Anyways, the bylaw that is being on the ballot is to change, like I said, from a constable from appointed or from elected to appointed. A constable has all the duties of a policeman. A policeman appointed by the select board and the police chief, you need to have all kinds of training, classroom, physical, etc. But a constable, nothing is required. They just get their name on the ballot by nomination and they get elected. That's not a problem. We've always, also like to mention, we've always had good constables in town, so this is by no means a reflection on anybody. Getting the election going and everything else to remove the person. So please support the item, the ballot question next week.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to take a brief recess to go over the questions. And, you know, if some of you do not have a question here and you do want to depart, then that's your option. We will review what questions we have for each of the groups. Thank you. Yeah, right, yeah. the question part. Okay. So there was a lot of questions, so thank you very much. There were some questions that were not used, mainly because of the fact that we want to talk about the town of Hadley, not the national situation, politics. Most of the other ones were very similar, so we kind of combined some questions. So if we read one and not the other, know that we did that in combination. And so I'm going to go, the first question that I have is really to both select as well as the planning. We have a lot for both, okay? So the first one kind of is a combo question, but it's how is the town going to deal with the cuts in federal funding that will mean less funding for Hadley? There's a couple that are related to that. So I guess we went in, I'll start with the select board. Let's see, I left all my notes down there. So the first to speak was Randy. The second was Molly, thank you. And Phil was third. So I think we go, thank you very much. So in this case, we are going to go, Molly, you're going to go first. Okay?
Two minutes? Okay. All right, thanks. Great question. Sorry, it needs to be asked right now. So we don't really know, obviously, the full impact of the cuts that may be coming down the pike. I think we all know that there's a very fluid situation that's happening both on the national and the state level. Some of what's happening at the federal level, people don't necessarily realize actually does become local because it kind of flows through the state, and then the state has to cut back, and that means that funding gets cut locally. So, I mean, what's worrisome to me right now, certainly the schools. And I think that, one thing to understand is that our schools right now are relying on school choice funding. Hadley's what we refer to as a school choice winner, meaning that the budget for the schools is bringing in revenue from kids who are really interested, families who are interested in being schooled in Hadley. But, that's only going to go so far. So there's definitely going to be challenges there. And then I think the good news is we're not as reliant as other municipalities on state aid. It's about $1 million, I think, out of our revenue budget. But again, it's a moving target. So how are we going to deal with it? The first is discovery. I mean, we need to figure out exactly where the cuts are going to happen, and then figure out how to backfill that. And that, again, going back to my opening comments, we may be looking at a reduction in services. But right now, there's nothing that specific that's on the table for me to be able to be more articulate on the matter, other than to say it all has to be brought into the overall financial picture of the town. But we do expect that it's going to be a challenge.
Phil?
I would have to say that I would agree with most of that. I think that it's a dynamic situation. I think first we would need to actually determine what's actually happening, and then we have to plan, predict, prepare, and roll with whatever situation that is. Regardless of whatever's happening on national or state levels, we have to prepare and provide for Hadley. So depending on whatever that situation is, we will have to be dynamic. We will have to come up with something to accommodate whatever situation that may arise. I am not here for politics, but I am here for Hadley.
Randall?
We are currently in a situation where we're struggling with lack of funding in town. Anybody that's been to town meeting knows. So how do we deal with it? To me, I look at the town situation, finances, it's a math equation. We take in so much money, and we have so much that we have to expend. And hopefully we take in more than we spend, obviously. How do we bring in more money? My thoughts are Route 9 has been our cash cow, if you will, for a long, long time, and we need to figure out a way to densify it in a way that's not going to be offensive to the town, and get businesses or housing, for instance, over 55 is one of the things that's going to be happening that will bring in more money for us.
Kishore?
So there is a concern, even in the business community, there's a concern with UMass and the other colleges with their federal funding. It's a big driver economically in our area. Us personally, as a developer, we're still looking forward to it. One of the things that I did personally is the over 55 housing zoning change, which Randy alluded to. So that's going to help us. And the new project that we got approved was the hotel, which is going to help us. But we have to be reactive. Hadley has to plan for worst case scenario of what could go forward. And luckily, in the past, we've always done a good job, always balancing it or getting through it. And I think that will continue, but we just have to be smart about it.
Anthony?
We don't really know what the fiscal impact of some of these cuts will be. We also have some difficult decisions to make budget-wise, and I think it falls mainly on the select board and on all of us at town meeting to make those tough decisions. From a planning board's perspective, and a town-wide perspective, we have something in Hadley that we're really blessed by that our planners years ago gave us, which is the Route 9 corridor, which we were able to develop that business district and keep the rest of the town, or most of the rest of the town, for neighborhoods. And it's an amazing place. And as I was talking about earlier, some people don't even know what Hadley is really like as they drive by on Route 9. And so I think we do have to be careful with Route 9, and we have to, we don't want to kill the golden goose that has supported us. And we talk about densifying, which in some cases may be good, but when you 55 and over does have some direct benefits. But if you talk about densifying into apartments, and those could actually end up adding to our budget, our services that we're paying. So I think we really do need to be careful. We just can't. I think we have something that's special, and we kind of need to protect that. And that's one of the reasons I'm running, is so we can kind of maintain that and say, let's support private business on Route 9. Let's encourage that, and let's keep the rest of Hadley neighborhoods as they are. Thanks.
Okay, the next question is going to be to the select board directly. So it was announced at the town meeting that we have come to a place that we need an override to continue services, or we will have, that we have how we've known them. How will you present this to the residents who believe Hadley's motto is "Don't raise taxes"? So we'll go with Phil first.
Can I read that? Because I missed part of that.
There you go.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
Sorry, the way it was written, it was a little of a brain twister there. So I would say that that's one of the reasons why I'm here. I am trying to fight to keep our taxes lower. That is probably my main directive and objective. As I said, I want to do everything that I can to bring logic, common sense, and try to fight for the value of our dollars. I completely understand that we do not have a credit card that someone doesn't have to pay. It's real dollars out of each and every one of our wallets anytime anything is spent. And I want to fight to make sure that those dollars are spent well, and I hope that by doing so, we will lower our overall budget that would be needed to be taken out of other people's pockets. It is a very challenging time, especially with the previous question where there's concerns from all corners for budgets, et cetera. So I think it's more important than ever to try to fight for value for that dollar.
Randall?
So we're all aware there have been discussions about this override, otherwise it wouldn't have come out at town meeting. So we have been talking about how we deal with this, and nobody wants their taxes raised, me or any of us here. But we have to, I mean, we can only raise our base tax to a certain limit, and then that's when we get into this override situation. And it becomes a question, as Molly alluded to earlier. We have so much money, we expect services that we've all grown accustomed to over the years. I get compliments all the time from neighboring townspeople, how wonderful our roads are in the winter, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to be a really hard battle with the select board and the finance committee and treasurer and all that in town hall to figure out what makes sense to do away with if we get to that point. We hope we don't have to, but it'll be case by case or department by department, go through and figure out what we feel that is the best way to not spend the money we don't have.
I did have the first question. Crystal, I didn't give you a chance if you wanted to talk on that first question. It's up to you.
Sure.
Okay. Would you like me to read it again, or? Okay, it was to everyone. How is the town going to deal with the cuts in federal funding that will mean less funding for Hadley? Great.
I just want to elaborate on what Kishore and Randy stated. Income coming in is what is necessary at this moment to stop projects that are in process or may come in the future can actually lower what Hadley's revenue can be. If we have projects that are going to increase the funding and increase the value of Hadley, I believe we should go forward with those projects, 55 and over, any businesses that may want to come to Hadley, because Route 9 is our source, and inside of Hadley is where we live. We do need financial backup, and we do need something in our pocket so that we can go forward in a drought. Thank you.
Okay, so this one is for the, we do?
Molly didn't answer that.
I apologize.
All right, thanks, Scott. Okay, so here's how I think I see this going. So, yeah, I mean, we talked about this at town meeting, or we at least teed it up. So I think the worst thing that we can do is to have people be shocked and surprised. And there's an awful lot of work that has to happen. So the first thing we need to do as a select board finance committee, in particular our finance director and acting town administrator, is take stock of where we're at. They're working right now on a multi-year projection. Again, the last thing we want to do is come say, hey, we need an override, and the first question somebody's going to ask is, well, are you going to come back again next year for another one, right? So we need to do multi-year strategic planning. The great tee-up question, there's so many unknowns out there. We don't know what sort of impact the federal and state cuts are going to have on us, so that's a fluid situation. So we're trying to stay very close with our legislative delegation on that front. What we're starting to talk about is a rollout plan, and a rollout plan for a conversation. We're going to need multiple meetings with the voters if we're actually going to put an override in front of them. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that we actually need an override. If we determine that we do need an override, we at the same time need to be running a path in anticipation that that override, whatever that amount might be that we would ask for, is going to fail. So that's also something that our financial management team is starting to look at. Bottom line is the majority of our budget at this point is people. So we don't see how we could do anything other than look at a reduction in services. And again, the select board and the finance committee are going to have to come together and determine what those priorities might be. So an awful lot of work between now and when that conversation starts.
Okay, so this is for the planning board. The planning board deals with both residential and business zoning issues. Just about any new development must be presented to the planning board, from senior housing to district overlays and commercial development. The planning board truly has the power to reshape the future of Hadley. Do you have any personal or professional potential conflicts of interest that would prevent you from fairly and impartially executing the duties and responsibilities of this position without personal or professional bias? We'll go, Anthony.
First of all, I don't have any conflicts to report. I work as a senior copywriter and as a supervisor of her creative team for a publishing company that's based in Northampton and Chicago. So I don't have any conflicts. I don't think I've had business in front of the planning board. So this is one area that I think that there are differences with me and Mr. Parmar, and experience is an advantage, but it can also be a double-edged sword when you're talking about conflicts. And it's just, I'll say this respectfully, but there are major conflicts here because he does have, the Parmars have major developments going forward in Hadley right now. We voted on one at town meeting a few weeks ago, and that's ongoing. That's going to be going throughout the next year. And that, for me, is an issue. I think that outweighs the experience part of it, because when you're talking about the conflicts, and it's how we have to know that it's an independent voice, that people are speaking for Hadley, and it's a very difficult thing when you're representing a company and also representing, try to represent the town. And I actually checked today the overlay, or the 55-and-over housing, Mr. Parmar's project, that was on the agenda for every meeting going back through May and April and March, February, into December. Every single meeting, he would have had to recuse himself at one point or another if that issue came up. And again, respectfully, I have a problem with that, because we have to be, if we're watching that and we're saying what, we need to know that there's impartiality and that the town's being represented. And I don't think that can happen when someone's trying to switch hats in the middle of a meeting that many times, every single meeting. I think that's a problem, and I'd like to hear how he addresses that.
Kishore?
So 2 conflicts. One is I probably care too much because I am a resident and a business owner. Second, I do have businesses in Hadley. I would recuse myself if I was on the planning board. The other thing is when you drop from 5 to 4 planning board members, when I recuse myself, they have to be unanimous in the decision. Also, there's 4 other people that are voted onto the planning board. If I'm recusing myself, they also represent us. So there's a democracy here. We do get represented. Regarding my businesses, we've done our development. We've done it for the past, since 1988. There hasn't been any conflict. If the conflict happens, all our businesses have benefited Hadley. I think currently this year, with all the hotels, it's going to be over $600,000 in occupancy tax revenue that our business is generating. So that's my conflict right there. So again, I would recuse myself if there was a competitor, if we had a family project. Regarding the over 55 overlay, I was not part of the planning board, so it was presented on behalf. They agreed with it. They were also part of it. They also presented it at town meeting, and there was a vote, a Democratic vote, and we approved it as a town. So that's it.
Okay, the next question is for the select board, so I think this is our third round, so we'll go back to the original. This time I won't forget you, Molly. Okay. How will you protect non-citizens against the federal government?
Wow.
Well, I'm glad I get to answer a national political question here. I don't know how we would deal with it as a town. I can tell you personally that I don't believe in what is happening in this country right now as far as the immigrants go. There's got to be a way for this town, if we get confronted with that, to deal with what I believe is an appropriate way. Maybe we have to, get have a special town meeting or something like that. But I will reiterate, I am not in favor of what's been happening, and I think it's atrocious.
Molly?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with Randy's sentiment. I think we're all appalled at watching what's happening right now. That said, as a town, I think, there are laws in place. We've had conversations with the chief of police. I know that there's been a lot of community outreach. Typically, one does think about the police department as being kind of the first line of defense, if you will. So I feel pretty comfortable that our police department right now is paying very close attention. We have an amazing reputation in Hadley, and I've heard this statewide, that our police department is actually considered kind of a model for how other police departments should do community policing. And I'm sure that extends, their level of compassion and care extends to non-citizens as well. And I'm grateful for the fact that we're in Massachusetts right now. I think that we have a better chance of success than other parts of the country. But again, very difficult to say how specifically we would deal with it, because going back to a previous comment, we have an unbelievably fluid situation here. But I do know there are, we're an agricultural community, and we have a lot of restaurants in town. And if you don't think that there are undocumented people here, you're probably not paying close attention. So they're here, they're part of our community, and I think we need to do whatever we can within the confines of whatever laws are available to protect this group.
Philip?
I believe that this is a situation that we can all agree upon. The two fine people to my side, I think, have similar standpoints. I have family members, including nieces and nephews, where English is not their first language. I have family that is South American, and I have family that is in German. I speak about 2 languages myself. Still working on the German and the Spanish and Portuguese, actually. So quite a bit of things that might come out for this thing. But, we live in a farming community, and, my relatives were also immigrants. So this is a very, very delicate situation, and, I am willing to fight for my neighbors. And something as simple as the restaurants and the farms, I have no idea what the metrics are for who is what and what is who. But there's a lot going on, and, I support my neighbors in this community.
Okay, this one's for the planning board. How will you protect against outrageous and inappropriate projects like the massive development now withdrawn at Laurel Lane? And we'll start with Kishore.
Where's Laurel Lane in this town?
I was getting ready, that's the same question I asked. Where's Laurel Lane?
Because I'm assuming it's Laurel Lane. Yeah. Where?
Like,
So-
like somewhere?
No, yeah, Laurel Drive's off at Chamorro.
Yeah, Laurel
Yeah, there's a
Drive.
Laurel Drive off at Chamorro, which is where I live. I'm not sure what this is exactly referring to, I apologize, but regarding massive developments that we're not in favor for, I think the planning board has done historically a good job with zoning bylaws and zoning changes to protect us from projects that we're not ready for or don't want either. Also, there's parts of zoning law where it requires the majority of the planning board present to vote on it, and if that doesn't get approved, it's shot down. It's also a public forum for planning board, so everyone there can voice their opinion if they're not in favor of a project, which has happened plenty of times and it's worked. So.
I think with any development project, that's one of the reasons that I kind of defend zoning. Zoning has taken a lot of criticism lately. There are some in some quarters. There are some folks feel you should even do away with the zoning, or open it up. But zoning really does protect us, and it's kind of what allowed us to have agricultural neighborhoods in the Route 9 corridor that we've been talking about, and also our neighborhoods. So when you're talking about major projects, one of the ways that it would be, as was alluded to, is that bring more people in. A lot of times these projects move forward and people don't hear about them until town meeting. I think it's incumbent upon us or upon town officials to reach out and get more people to come to those meetings, and especially abutters, stakeholders, anybody who's nearby. And in that way you can really get some feedback and see how people really feel about them. Not every project. Some of our zoning projects, there was the storage facility that was built. A lot of people didn't like. A lot of people spoke out against it. But there wasn't much that could be done with that because of our zoning laws. And I think if we bring more people in early, we can have more projects, or sometimes head off projects that we don't want.
So this one is actually specifically to you, Tony. This is referring to occasions before with the Hadley Climate Committee. You've staked out positions in opposition to the Green Communities Act, solar energy, energy storage, and other efforts for the town to mitigate climate change. Will you continue your opposition to these efforts as a planning board member?
Well, I'm not sure exactly specifically what that's referring to, but I stand behind things that I've said. I think that when you're talking about climate change and energy projects, there is, it really depends on how we do things. If you talk about climate change, we all know that the climate has always changed. If we talk about energy storage, solar projects, what does that really mean? And I know that there are solar projects that have been built in town where farmland has been covered up. They're called dual use, but they're not really being used for very much, except for we're losing farmland. And so those are my priorities. I'm not against solar projects or even or in some cases other projects, but we still have to decide where we want it, how we want to do it. So the only thing I push back in is I was in opposition to, various projects. I think I would always have an open mind to different projects, and if it works for the town, I'm going to support it. I'm not reflexively opposed to any kind of a climate project at all.
Getting there. So we have, this one is for the Select Board, and I'll read it straight out, and we'll see if you have any other questions. It says, why not build one of those steel structures ready-made to house equipment for DPW? And this may be a multi-point question. Offices in a corner and air conditioning in offices only. And we'll start with Phil.
So for me, stepping into some of these things, I might not have been any more privy to any of this information other than what I've seen, both on the town budgets and hearing from people. I've spoken with hundreds of people in town, and this is something that actually has come up several times with multiple people regarding this garage. In my opinion, that sounds like a great idea, as opposed to what I'm hearing for a proposed budget for a massive building to house all of our equipment and keep it heated, et cetera. I've been a contractor for years. I know many contractors that probably would be a very good, some sort of idea gathering from multiple sources on what we really need to do to protect our equipment versus not. I think that they have construction trailers now for their offices. I'd like to see the people have a nicer, better office. That would be fantastic. Something as far as a heated, maintenance bay, that sounds wonderful. But I think that that's one of those things where we can fine tune, and as opposed to what I'm hearing is a very large, very expensive building, I think we could probably do a little better and make it much more efficient and tailor the needs to what we actually need, possibly accomplish some of the wants while filling all of the needs with a fraction of the budget. And I would hope that we could work with the right professionals so that we have the right consultations to do that and make it work for everybody while keeping it with a reasonable budget.
Randall?
As I said earlier, I'm on the DPW Building Committee, and there are 9 people on that committee from this town, from farmers, builders, engineers, land surveyors, et cetera, and we have hashed this building back and forth for pretty much a year or more. And we are all aware that the cost projections are very high. None of us is happy about it. But the reality is that a building like that, because it's a municipal building, has to follow certain guidelines, rules, building code, which is different than houses, et cetera. The only thing that I heard that in that question that possibly makes any sense is to not have the mechanics bays air conditioned, but we get into a situation with hiring employees that if we don't offer what the next town over offers, and money is similar, then people are going to move. We have a really hard time keeping our employees. So something as minimal, in my opinion, as air conditioning certain parts of the building and not others is not really worth the money.
So I personally think that it's worth another look at the proposal for the DPW building. Again, the cost estimates, to Randy's point, came out significantly higher, I think, than anybody was expecting. But I also want to respect the work that the DPW Building Committee did. And I know that I wasn't sitting in on those meetings, and there's an awful lot of information that they have that I don't have. So easy to just be on the outside and say, well, obviously we just need to throw up this structure and we're good to go. I think that there are, environmental considerations. There's some pretty, we have an awful lot of expensive equipment, And we haven't done a very good job protecting that equipment over the years. And so this DPW building would hopefully resolve that issue. But I think given where the cost estimates came out, it's worth looking at whether or not we can get creative. And, again, I want to respect the fact that, to Randy's point, we had extremely good, talented people working on that committee. So I don't want to stand here and second guess them. But again, as a leader in the town, for that price tag, it deserves a second look, and that is why the select board, as you know, passed over that at town meeting and deferred that discussion until a later point in time so that we can do more information gathering. It may ultimately wind up that we bring the same proposal, or maybe there'll be a modified version of it.
Okay, we are on our last question. And this was actually, there was a question directly to the planning board and also to the select board, but they were very similar, so we combined them. This has to do with housing affordability, and it says, the resident says the affordability is in a crisis. How would you address this problem? And that is housing affordability. And we will start with Kishore.
So there is a committee, Smart Growth Committee, that's looking at all types of housing, and affordable housing is part of it. It is starting up, it is doing work, so the process is already started regarding looking at the capacity of affordable housing in Hadley and what it's going to lead to. It's still in its infancy, it still is going to include town input on it, and that's where it stands right now. So it looks like there's a possibility further down the line, but it's in its infancy. The state is looking at it, and there is a certain requirement that every town has a level of affordable housing, which Hadley's done a good job of maintaining a little bit above the threshold. The concern of some is if you go below that threshold, it gives developers and the state to come in and put affordable housing wherever they want. But there is a committee which I'm on that is looking at affordable housing as an option in the future in Hadley.
So what we're going to do is we're just going to go right down the line. So you'll be the next.
So when you talk about affordable housing, it's I don't like the term because we're talking about, it's kind of a meaningless term. Affordable housing, in a lot of cases, it really means subsidized housing, is what we're talking about when we're talking about with some of these projects. Subsidized housing either by the state or by taxpayers or by other tenants. There's and that in a lot of ways we spend a lot of we have these projects for affordable housing. They end up costing more because you add a layer of bureaucracy. I am for making housing more affordable, and I think that there is a role for the planning board in that, because I just happened to see a study last week by Realtor.com. Massachusetts is way at the bottom for the least affordable, for builders to be able to build projects because of regulation, because of complicated zoning, and high taxes, and so that's something that we can do something about that on the planning board. We can simplify our zoning laws. Some of these, and I'm not saying that I've made a decision on smart growth, but when you're adding new layers of complications, we already have, it's very complicated. We have our different overlays. Now we've expanded our 55 and over overlay, and then we're talking about doing expanding that, making and smart growth. It's too complicated. It's too expensive because you have to have lawyers come in and figure it out, and it takes a long time just to get through all that. So we can keep taxes low. We can keep regulations simple. We can simplify our zoning, and that will actually help out our builders and actually make homes more affordable.
I deal with developers all the time, and affordable housing in this area is extremely difficult to accomplish based on most towns' bylaws, specifically Hadley, our bylaws allow for single-family housing. We don't allow building of duplexes or multifamilies. The only way that you can legally create a duplex in this town is if you have a house that was built prior to 1961 and you can convert it within the confines of the existing building. So if we're going to have affordable housing in this town, we need to change the bylaws that would allow for multifamily, possibly apartments. The only way you can get things affordable is what's known as economies of scale. You build one house on a lot in this town, and you're looking at, right now, a minimum of $700,000. I don't believe that qualifies as affordable. Land is outrageously expensive, so if you can only put one house on one piece of land, that you can't decrease your costs. But if you can put multiple units of housing on one piece of land, you can reduce your costs, but not tremendously. Affordable housing is going to be very difficult to make affordable. There's two, I'm on the Smart Growth Committee as well. We have two affordables, capital A affordable and small a affordable. And capital A means that it's 80% of the median, whatever. I mean, I'm not familiar with the definitions exactly. But small a is that's what I consider affordable. People that are struggling, you know, working 3 jobs just to get by, and they still can't afford a house. So we've got to change the bylaws, the zoning bylaws, in order to make it happen.
Well, I'll start by saying I agree with everything that Randy just said. I think the solution that we need to look towards is density development. It's the only way to make the numbers work. So in order to allow for that, what's happening right now, and by the way, I chair the Housing and Economic Development Committee, and I'm also a member of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, one of the trustees. So we have a little bit of money over there set aside. It's not meaningful enough to do any projects with. I mean, it's a few $100,000. So one, we need to figure out how to leverage that money. The CPA money, there's a set aside or a carve out, if you will, that is also housing related. So there's some resources available to us. But, you know, one of the things I've been saying for years that's a bit of a frustration is what's happening what it was typically happen, you know, we do not have a professional town planner. So again, you're relying on elected officials, volunteers, to make all of this happen. And our planning board has always been phenomenal, and I'm grateful for all of the work that they've done. But there's so much coming at them that they're more reactive than they are proactive. And the Smart Growth Committee that's formed is a great step in the right direction. The housing production plan was completed, saying that residents are crying out for affordable housing, big A, small a. And Jim Maximowski chaired that. So there's no question that our town residents are looking for this sort of a development. And I think in accordance with the master plan, kind of keeping it along the Route 9 corridor and preserving the neighborhoods north and south of that is the way to go. But, you know, again, a lot of work has to be done on that. So I'm glad at least we're moving in the right direction.
I think that's another point that we probably more so agree on than anything else. We as the town of Hadley, we cannot do anything about the cost of labor. We cannot do anything about the cost of building materials. They have gone up through the roof over the past several years. The cost of building a house today, I would argue, is at least 50% higher, if not 75% higher than it was 6 years ago. It's unsustainable. I feel terrible for anybody who's trying to get a house now who missed this substantial increase in housing. It has also driven taxes up, et cetera, and raising our taxes will not make housing affordable. One of the things that I think we can do, as both of these fine folks have mentioned, is allowing and promoting more building. That needs to be done very carefully. We would need the work of all of the boards, select boards, planning boards, conservation boards, to make sure that we do it respectfully to the communities, respectful to the farmland, preserving what needs to be preserved. We have some of the most fertile soil in the world here, and we do need to protect that to a degree. But we also have people that need housing, and you look at some of these other towns, some neighboring towns where they have zoning, or not just zoning, frontage requirements that are just absolutely unbelievable. You need hundreds and hundreds of feet of street frontage and, acreage, 2.5+ acres to build a house. How is anybody supposed to do anything with that type of circumstance? So here, as both of them mentioned, possibly lightening up with some of our regulations so that we can actually build on some of the places that may be working with the boards and other commissions that we could deem acceptable to build on, and promote businesses to come to the town, promote people to come in to build here.
So I agree with what Randy and Molly and Jim, Bill have said. However, when you think of affordable housing, it's not always low income. And low income always has a stigma attached to it, meaning if you're low income, that you're poor, you're on drugs, or you're just a street urchin. That's not true. There are several factors. A person can be ill and elderly. A person can have lost their job and cannot afford what the rent may be. As far as affordable housing, it will bring in revenue to Hadley, and it will also assist the residents of Hadley for the elderly people or even disabled people who may want to downsize but aren't unable to downsize because they cannot afford to pay what it costs for an apartment where it's just one person. Golden Court, for an example, is very small. If you've been in those apartments, you'll see it's literally 2 rooms. That's not someplace someone should live out the rest of their days. And affordable housing does not necessarily mean low income. It means affordable housing for everyone. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That was all the questions. I'm going to let Denise before.
Okay, so I'm going to close out this evening of Candidates Night. So we'd like to invite all of you to come in the fall to our Hadley Mothers Club Holiday Fair, which it will be, it's the Saturday before Thanksgiving, which is the 22nd. It's from 9 to 3. It's right here at Hopkins Academy. We got back into it last year. Since COVID, we didn't have the fair for a long time, but now we're back at it, and we had a great crowd that came through, and we're hoping to have bigger and better things. So, and then I'd love to thank everyone who have made this night possible, the staff here at Hopkins that set up all the chairs, and Alex and his staff at Hadley Media, and Scott Channel, our moderator, and then all the candidates who came. We really appreciate you coming and speaking about issues in town and about yourselves, and it's really good to get to know everyone. And another reminder, Tuesday, May 20th, at the Hadley Senior Center is voting. It's from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. More than enough time for everybody to get there. Even if you have to work, you can go after work. And then Hadley Media will re-show this program on the public station on Charter. Say again? 192. Channel 192, and also on demand you can go on YouTube channel, look up Hadley Media, and you can watch it there also. Thank you very much for coming tonight too, please. Thank you.